Good. We're live. All right. Beautiful. Thanks for joining us on Facebook, everybody. Judah, happy day to you. You got the sunshine today. I got the grimy basement.
Well, it's yeah, I'm out and about. The good thing is we over here at Statehouse Group are still operating very remotely, and so we have taken on a bunch of new clients at this time. And one of the things that we do is post a welcome letter on all of our new tenants' doors to let them know where they pay rent and everything like that. So It's definitely a whole lot of social distancing. We hang keys and lock boxes on properties that are vacant so that we can actually still do tours of vacant properties and things like that. So I'm out and about doing some nuts and bolts operations, keeping the economy going. And, I'm really blessed to work for a company like Statehouse Group. And I know that you have said the same thing in the past with hard money bankers. And I really feel for all the people who are out of work and feeling bad. And I think as a caveat, that's almost where we need to begin our conversation. We talk about, Josh, on here what we should be doing, what we could be doing as business people in this economy, but we want to be very careful not to advocate for either side in this, because both sides are right and both sides are wrong. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, so I'm gonna even take this a step farther and kind of flip it. Like, I think I want to advocate for both sides, because I mean, at this point, like yesterday, after driving through Harrisburg and just seeing all the things that were going on, I had a real mix of emotions that leaving there for a number of different reasons. And last night, reading through my Facebook feed and some of the other social media platforms, I'll tell you what, I'm like shocked at how divided we are and how both sides are so right. There's so many excellent arguments on both sides. And I think, as we jump into this discussion, this is not going to be nearly as long as our broadcast yesterday. But I think it's really important to kind of set the groundwork. And first of all, realize that we gotta kind of go into this discussion assuming that everybody's coming into this with the best of intentions, and including our government officials. And regardless of what you think of them or what they say or whatever, I don't think anybody in the state, in the country, except a few maybe outliers, can really come in and are really coming to this with the intent of of anything negative. It's like what
malice. Yeah, there's very little malice. It's an attempt, and certainly how we solve problems is different. One of the things that's always kind of frustrated me is people who say they don't like talking politics or they don't like discussing politics, because politics is the art of solving problems together through a negotiated situation. Like, I love talking politics because it's how are we as a society going to come together and solve problems. So, and sometimes solving problems makes other problems. And so how do we solve problem A without creating problem B or C, or making existing problem B or C even worse? So I think that grace is the word that I would use.
That's
and
perfect.
You just have to have a whole lot of grace for the people who want to, reopen PA now, and you have to have a whole bunch of grace for the people who say no, we've got to stay home, under strict lockdown and quarantine, and everything in between. And I think one of the things that's kind of funny to me, Josh, is, I mean, like you were telling me earlier today, we were just catching up on some other stuff, and you even though you wish we were opened, are taking this thing pretty seriously. And like you had a family member that needed some help. Tell that story. That's a good story, because I think it shows how you can be on both sides of this issue at the same time.
Right. So, I mean, in preparation for this call, like literally 4.5 minutes ago, we discussed some of the topics we're gonna talk about, and of those, mortgage servicers, oil, some other industries that have gotten really impacted by this, right? And it's like ripple effects that could last for years. This morning, so after leaving Harrisburg yesterday, one of the feelings I was having was, man, holy cow, look at all the people that really want to reopen Pennsylvania, that are really want to get back to work. And I'm looking on social media, and my dad's uncle has a post that says something like, I mean, basically the idea was like, shame on you. Like you're putting somebody at risk. And you know, it made me feel bad. It really, like I felt that just because I was there. I wasn't even protesting, you know? And then I'm talking to my sister this morning. My sister, she's got a bed. She wanted me to go and pick it up. Hi, Mary. You know, and so I said to her, like, yeah, I'd love to come pick up this bed for you. No problem. But I'm going to need like a half-hour window when nobody's going to be home. And in the course of our discussion, she works in a hospital. She's a occupational therapist.
Right.
She's telling me about the people that she work with and how they're absolutely exhausted emotionally because the people that they're treating for the COVID virus, they're dying.
Right.
They're dying all over. And you know, if it's 5 people, 6 people, 10 people, you know, on a grand scheme of the state and our whole population doesn't seem like a huge number, but every single one of those numbers is a person. And so, I mean, like it really was a slap in the face. So, I mean,
right.
You see it from both sides, and it's that's why I wanted to talk about this today, is that there's such contention on both sides of the argument. There's so many people that they feel like their way is the only way and they're 100% right. And they're absolutely polar opposites of the other end of the argument. And really, I looked at it and said, you know what? Everybody's right. We're 100% right on both sides. I see the argument. I see the pain and the reality of the situation. And it's just a very difficult time to be in here in history. And I think it's really important for us to be gracious, you know, to just be gracious and understand, like, nobody's coming at us from whatever side of the argument you're on to take away your livelihood or take away your loved ones, or, you know, keep you locked up. It's just a really difficult situation.
Well, and I think that, you know, grace is the one emotion that we need to, or the one attitude, or the one you know, virtue that we need to express at higher levels than what we currently have been. So that would be the first thing. I think the second thing is humility and recognizing that, hey, maybe Judah doesn't know everything. Maybe I think that I've got this all figured out and my position is the right position. Well, guess what? There are 350 million people in the United States who also feel that their unique individual position is the right and correct position as well. And I think that coming at things with a little bit of humility and understanding, you know, I have a former good friend and business leader who used to say on a pretty regular basis, just because the wind is blowing doesn't mean a hurricane is coming.
Yeah.
You know, and what's problematic about that is before any hurricane happens, the wind starts blowing harder. And so people think, oh, when the wind starts blowing harder, that means that a hurricane might be coming. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And I think that there's a lot of business people, business owners, who want to open up their business again and are actually doing more harm to their name, to their standing, to their brand in the business community by coming across as wackadoos. And if you want to say we should open and that's the position that you want to take, great. Find a non-wackadoo way to express that, because you're not helping and serving your business. You're actually hurting your business by doing that.
Well, I was shocked at some of the first of all, at how close people got at the protest yesterday.
Right.
Social distancing is an important part of this, and going back to work responsibly. You know, the real estate agents, you know, and people in the real estate industry, we've been, you know, chomping at the bit to get back to work and chirping that we can do this responsibly, right? And then we've got a protest and everybody's all but holding hands in front of the Capitol. And
right.
You know, I saw a post about something in Kentucky where, you know, they saw a correlative spike in infections right after some of the protesting that they had, you know, and within the 2-week period. Like, that's something that it's very likely we're going to see that, and that the blowback from that is not going to be a good thing. And now on the flip side, I also know a guy out of Philly that I was talking to yesterday, And he was saying, look, for 23 years, I've built this business, 23 years. And now within the course of 7 weeks, I'm really contemplating whether I can keep this going. And it's
Right.
not, it's, you got people that have invested their life into a business, and they're wondering how long they can hold out to continue that going on. And on the flip side, we've got people showing up with guns, loaded or unloaded, at the state capitol, for a protest about reopening. And like, there are really legitimate arguments at every point along the way. And I just feel like we're all shouting at each other and nobody is sitting back and listening.
Right. Right. And I think that shouting is what is hurting hurting people's business.
Yep.
And Michael Jordan, there's I don't know if you saw the Bulls documentary that recently came out. Did you see it yet?
But it's
I
all
haven't had a chance to see it yet either, but I want to check it out because, I mean, listen, I'm not a sports guy. I don't like sports, but I love success stories and I love confidence stories and I love comeback stories. And there's just a whole lot about Michael Jordan to just absolutely love.
Oh,
and the fact that he worked harder than anybody else on the team, the fact that he carried the team on his back when he had to, the fact that, he lost a national championship and he said no team that I'm a part of is ever going to lose a national championship ever again. So just, I mean, it's great. But Michael Jordan made buku more bucks. I don't know how many more bucks or what, but I'm pretty sure that he made more bucks through endorsement deals, specifically with Nike, than anybody out than he did from actually playing basketball. And he wasn't any schlump when it came to what he was pulling down from basketball earnings. And people from his bent of the political spectrum, opposite of me, he was on the left. And people like Susan Sarandon and Sean Penn and Oprah Winfrey would say, hey, Michael, we know that you write checks to support different liberal causes, but you never champion them or even make public comments. You wouldn't even have to make big public comments, but just every once in a while throwing your hat in the ring a little bit and letting people know how you feel about different issues. And he says, no, I'm absolutely never going to do that. And they said, why not? And he said, sorry, this is the payoff from a long setup. He said, Republicans buy sneakers too.
So have you ever heard of the book Never Split the Difference?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Chris Voss is the guy's name, right?
Yeah.
He got an online course, online master course, right, on negotiation, and I saw one of their ad previews, right, and where he talks about some of the things that he looks for in a negotiation when somebody starts shouting at him, right? As soon as somebody starts shouting, we as humans, we follow the same trajectory. Like, we all do the same stuff, even though we think we're unique. We do the same stuff. So when somebody starts shouting, what they're really saying is that I'm not being heard.
Right.
Nobody's listening to me. And I kind of feel like that's where we are as a society, and like that. And the problem is not that either side of this or it is doing anything, and that their argument is improper. It's more so that they're feeling like they're not being heard. And I think a lot of business owners right now really feel that way, especially, and not just business owners, but people that are in a niche where they don't qualify for any of the bailouts, any of this, and especially small business owners. I don't know if you saw this, but like a lot of these national restaurants and hotel chains, they took most of the $350 billion that were these supposed to be small business bailouts. So
right.
I'm not saying that that's wrong, because big business, small business, it's all made up of people. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But at the end of the day, we're in a situation where I feel like a lot of people are under the impression that they're not being heard, that their ideas and their thoughts are being pushed to the side. And as a result, we're getting a lot of shouting and a lot of people are saying a lot of things that maybe they wouldn't say under normal circumstances. And what I think, to circle back to what you're getting to, is that, look, we got to kind of take a deep breath and calm down and realize that, look, this will end, and making yourself out to be the advocate is probably not the best bet.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. So I have four kids, and I've been telling them since the time that before they could even understand it. What do we do in pressure situations? We
Mm-hmm.
remain calm.
Yep.
We control our emotions. We make good choices.
Mm-hmm.
When you are a business owner and you are allowing yourself to get overly emotional, you are trying to change the world. You're
Yep.
trying to change the state instead of saying, maybe the best thing I can do to change the world and change the state is run the best business I can. Maybe the best way to change society is by keeping my business open. And how can I survive and thrive in this time and not get distracted by the political arguing that's going back and forth? That's a lot of fun. Sorry if you hear it's trash day in the part of the city that I'm in. So if you there's a whole lot of government servants, government employees at work right around me. So listen, I'm going to mute myself, but you wanted to talk a little bit about oil. Set up the oil conversation.
Right. Okay. So there's two things. I saw something this morning in the New York Times about mortgage servicers and how the government is kind of ignoring with the bailouts the problems with the mortgage servicing industry. And they laid out some numbers that I had not heard before, but here's what it looks like. Something like $125 billion is going to be lost by the mortgage servicing industry this year because of loan deferments and decreases in new mortgage applications, things like that. That's a bad thing. What's worse is that the total income of that entire industry annually is about $25 billion. So you're talking about losing 5 years of revenue, or I'm sorry, of profit, not revenue, but profit from this industry over the course of 1 year. That will wipe out that entire industry. Now, who are the mortgage servicers? These are mortgage companies that originate loans and then sell them on the secondary market. And they have an obligation to make good on missed payments to the people that are the investors that are buying the secondary loan, or they have to, or they have to buy back the note or hold it themselves. The problem is they're not making enough money to make this happen. And you have these dictates or not even dictates, but you have people getting squeezed, needing some help, and deferring payments or whatever. And there's no mechanism to bridge the gap there between where we are today and where we might be in 6 months, and so we have a real crisis on our hands in the mortgage industry. If the services disappear, somebody will step up, but we're going to have a gap in the market for a sustained period of time where you're not going to be able to get a mortgage on a house. That's a humongous problem.
Well, and what you're going to see is, rates might stay low because the money sources have not been crunched and not been squeezed. But what you will see is fees go higher on mortgages because if you have a business that's set up to manufacture 10 widgets a month, and all of a sudden so much of your competition goes out of business that your demand now is for 50 widgets a month, your prices go up. It just is what it is. And if you are a mortgage originator and a lot of your competition goes out of business and you're set up to write 100 loans a month, and now all of a sudden you have the business volume to support 500 loans a month, you've got to hire people. And the way you hire people for next month is by charging more in fees this month. And so you're going to see higher application fees, higher origination fees, higher points, things like that. And that won't get shown up or talked about necessarily in the articles because they'll say, hey, it's still an easy time to buy because interest rates are still at 4% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. Well, the fees might be two to three times higher is one of the ways that could express itself.
So there's one big segment of our economy, right? Mortgage servicing, which is directly connected to retail sales, investment properties, the whole 9 yards. Now we've got another one, which is energy. And we've got a situation where we became the number one producer of oil in the entire world
Right.
over the last decade, but we're only profitable. It only makes sense if oil prices are at $50 a barrel.
Right.
We're at, what was it? Negative $37 a barrel.
Negative $37 when you factor in storage fees, and it's just crazy what's going on. Now that was in the futures what they were trading for overnight. They've since bounced back and whatever. I mean, they only touched on that, but still. I think we're at like 17, 19. Here's the other thing is, when people talk about oil, there's like, so many different, there's sweet crude and sour, which means, if it's called sour, it means that there's more sulfur in it. So think rotten egg smells, which, needs to cost money to actually get that out of the oil and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, we're in the teens for oil prices right now. And especially in Texas, that is not a good thing.
Well, and beyond that, the biggest issue that look, I'm not an expert on this. If somebody's watching and they want to chime in and tell me I'm wrong, great, I'll take it. But from what I understand, the biggest issue here is that we can't just stop the pumps. It's not like all of a sudden we can just cut it off. So because some of these pumps, especially in Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Ohio, it takes years to prime them to be able to get the oil out of the ground. And so what you have is that you've got these pumps going and going and going, and nobody's using the oil. And so we're running out of places to put it. I mean, globally, they're running out of places to put it. And a guy that I used to work with, he worked prior and for this company that they would travel all over the country and they would do bio cleaning. Right. So like they worked in some of these storage units in these storage tanks. And if you ever are in Philly or you're, a lot of times they're near large ports where you'll see the big cylindrical, like almost towers. They're not too tall, but like what happens is they fill these things up with oil and they store them there until it's time to ship. Well, all of them across the world are getting filled up. And from what I was reading this morning, a lot of these investors, what they're doing is they're renting out tanker ships, at $100,000 I don't know, a month, a day, I don't know. But they fill these tankers up and they just have them floating around the world until the price goes up. But I mean, how many tanker ships are there internationally? Like there's only so many.
Right. So
there's a lot of conflicting and really difficult decisions that have to be made here in the next couple days, months, with regard to our economy and where things are going. But I mean, again, we've talked about this a lot of times. That leads to opportunity. Difficulty is going to open up opportunity. And if you can weather the storm, you're going to be in a really great spot.
Well, yeah, because lower prices in oil also means that lower prices for transportation. And right now we're not transporting a lot, we're not moving around a lot, and we're not we're saving a lot of money because we don't need to replace tires on our cars as much. We don't need to get our cars serviced as often. There's a whole bunch of things that's actually saving a lot of money in this economy. And I think as we get things moving again, we're bound to see some really great opportunities. Yeah. So listen, let's wrap this up here, my friend, unless you have anything else to say. We're at about 23 minutes. Yeah.
Tomorrow, we're going to have somebody on that's going to be talking about a piece of software that I think is really fantastic for investors. You can lower the timeline on repaying your mortgages without any additional cost. And then Thursday, we got a really great show where we're going to start one. We've got a handful of experts, and we're going to talk about people that have been through the collapse of 2008 and came out the other end, looking pretty good, how they weathered that storm and what they're going to recommend to investors coming forward. So stick with us tomorrow and then on Thursday. And that's it. So I think we're good to go for today. If you guys have any questions, please comment on Facebook, shoot us an email, let us know. If you've got any ideas on topics, we'd love to hear it. All right. Great. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you later.
See you, everybody. Talk to you later.